Okay, hi, welcome to Cherie's Weight Loss Journey. I'm out here going to meet my daughter. We're going to make a little exchange. I'm going to give her some food, and she's going to give me back my shampooer, my purple shampoo. Oh, when I came back today, I was so frustrated. I had to burn up some of the energy of frustration. And what I did was I went ahead and mowed the lawn. Okay? And my lawn looks good in the front. So that's good. I'm not too worried about the battery going down fast because where we're going to meet is at a charging station. Hold on. So I'm not bringing my dog along with me, and I feel really bad about that. You know, my heart aches because I really want to be able to bring my dog with me. But like I said, she's shedding because it's warm right now. And I just cleaned out a whole bunch of hair. I even bought some car seats. And, you know, because the way that it's been going, in order for me to make more money faster, it seems like it has to be more than just Uber Eats, that I would have to start picking up passengers. I really don't want to pick up passengers. A lot of times the passengers that I have seen in the app was stating that a lot of them wanted to go long distances, right? Clear across the county, a lot of them to the airport. And I was like, wow, maybe if I had a different vehicle, I could do that. But I don't. So, even this delivery that I had today, where I'm thinking it was going to be somewhat local. Even when I looked at the map, it looked local, but the map was condensed. So it actually wasn't local. It was all the way over there in Duncanville and Cedar Hill. And I'm like, I can't go that far, And to make it worse, the charging stations wasn't working properly. Half of the chargers was out of commission. It was sad. It was sad. So I was telling my daughter, what happened, and she was like, oh, maybe somebody just forgot, to unplug, and they just, tore up the machine, and just like, well, shit. But, a couple of times, the button that you have to push in order to, communicate that the connection is locked down, it's very difficult, and the handle is very heavy. I mean, I think the handle might be about a good 5 to 10 pounds. And the button, if it's malfunctioning, I have to call the EVgo customer service and get actually make the connection with the vehicle. So yeah, it's a lot of learning lessons. So anyway, I was watching this lady. I think her name was like Elder something or another. Anyway, she's in Europe right now. She's like a 70-year-old woman. She has about 33,000 followers. So she's making herself a little change on YouTube. I don't know if she's making that, more money even on the other platforms. She could be, right? Hopefully, if she isn't, that she does start, at least downloading onto, these other platforms that, will pay for the views. I'm sure she probably is. Like I said, or I hope she is or will be. Because a lot of people will use the same video that they use for YouTube, and since the other platforms, they want like shorter videos, YouTube has a different demographic. The people on YouTube, they want to know the who, what, where, when, and how. Right? Whereas the other platforms, it could be fantasy, it could be short takes. Now, I'm not gonna say that YouTube doesn't like the short takes, because my short videos, the last short video that I made, I think it was like 15 seconds, had the most views, right? My shorts get more views than my actual content, right? Because that's the type of society we live in. Now, like I said, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to utilize, some editing equipment or software or something like that, and actually not just use just my phone. When I'm using just my phone, I upload, boom, it is what it is, right? Even though I download YouTube Studio, thinking that, maybe, it will allow me to, it might allow me to edit the videos. Editing on your phone is, it's difficult, to say the least. It's just difficult. So I don't really try to edit on my phone. That was something that I was supposed to do. I also was supposed to launch my Empress channel. It has not launched. It has not launched, right? But getting back to what I was talking about, I got sidetracked because I was saying that I was hoping that this other lady would, edit her videos and download those to the other platforms so that she can, make more money. Because, she's talking about her finances right now. She went abroad in March. Well, she started traveling in March. And she said that her stay she's in France, and her expenses have been $20 did not include, certain things like things that she had to pay for on a yearly basis that she would need, regardless to her traveling here and there and here. Like her medical. One thing I didn't like that she talked about was she was thinking that, okay, Social Security was going to be eliminated. Well, I believe that if they were going to eliminate anything, is they would need to eliminate the disability, right? Especially when it comes to like mental illness disability. Because these people aren't getting well. These people are, Social Security wasn't at jeopardy until they merged disability insurance along with Social Security insurance. Disability insurance is being corrupted by people who basically they're not working, okay? And then some of them that can work, if you're just on disability and you can work, I don't understand why they're still on disability, unless it's a physical disability. If it's a physical disability, and some people will try to tell you, oh, physical disability can be a mental deficiency. Well, no, I'm not talking about that, because we have a lot of people that suffer from bipolar, that suffer from schizophrenia, from all of the those on the spectrum, right? Those people that are on the spectrum of functional but not debilitated. And we have a lot of those here in America, including those people that are on drugs and alcohol. They also utilize the disability money because of their lifestyle and their self-inflicted illnesses that they have done to themselves through the drugs and alcohol, right? Because I've seen people who are on disability living their life a lot better than I lived my life, and I worked. I've seen men who would intentionally, hurt themselves on purpose at a job site because they knew they were going to get disability, right? In countries where they don't have disability, those people don't get hurt. They're like, shit, they're going to get well, and they're going to work. But that safety net is being exploited by a lot of men who don't want to work. Lazy ass men. Now, there might be some lazy ass women out there too. Right? And they're like, well, they ain't, all they need is a doctor. So here's the thing. Now we're getting into the professionals, right? Where you'll have professionals who will put these people on disability so they can get a check. And they're like, sure, no problem. You know, you're going to get a check. You're going to continue to see this doctor so that you can get your check. And it's just like they fed into the corruption. They fed into the corruption. So then, because the government knows that this happens, then the government, they have to get people to try to read through their file and determine whether or not the doctor who states that this person should be on disability actually deserves to be on disability. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, that's redundant, right? That's redundant. Why don't the state provide its own doctors, and if people want to be on disability, then they have to actually go to government doctors in order to be disabled, considered to be disabled, and get paid. Now, this ain't the same as the disability that you get from your job, because your job has disability insurance, but your job also have doctors that they need you to go see their doctors in order for, you know, your claim, you know, to be, you know, honored. So why is it, you know, that same system isn't, you know, incorporated when it comes to the Social Security system? I don't know. Because when I was working, I had a doctor that would state one thing, but the job disability doctors can still deny me from being on disability. You see, just like this last time, where my doctor said, okay, she has the flu, and they were like, nah, you know, we'll give her a day worth of sick, you know, and that's it. You know, it's just like, what? Just one day for the flu? You know, and honestly, I could have had more than the flu. I could have had COVID. I didn't get tested for COVID, but I could have had COVID. Now, if the employer hadn't snatched up the ability to go to the company doctor, because they had allowed, you know, all employees, all Amazon employees, access to their clinic, and they would be able to pay an office visit. They're like, nah, we don't want your office visit. You know, like, well, you don't want the office visit? And they didn't want the office visit, right? You got to have a medical and an office visit. It's just like, well, shit. So they probably blew that, you know, situation for a lot of people by not letting them utilize, you know, the Amazon and the Apple Clinic. And I know that this is true because they cut back the hours, right? The clinic is only open business hours, like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. They let go a lot of staff, you know, because why? They made poor decisions. That's a poor decision to sit up there and tell Amazonian employees that they have to have the medical in order to go to their clinic. So by them doing that, they probably are also going to lose that contract with Amazon completely, because they made a poor business decision by thinking they didn't need, these cash visits. And honestly, Amazon doesn't really pay that much. And they're like, but Amazon's, medical doesn't cost that much. Well, we'll just have to wait and see then. We'll just have to wait and see. To my surprise, there's only one car over there at the charging station. I'm at 44%. I really don't want to have to go and charge up again. I could, but I'm at 44%. I will make it back home. So I'm not going to charge again. All I want to do is drop these off to my daughter, pick up my shampooer, my carpet shampooer, and then skedaddle back to the house. That's all I want to do. So, and I believe I have enough to make it back home. I'm telling you, my battery goes down faster in the heat. I don't know what that's about. And maybe it's just, my particular battery, the state of my battery. It could be that. But while I was watching the senior citizen talk about, their trip abroad, right? And, while at the same time thinking about, how I need to start documenting my expenses because of, because I'm out here delivering as a contractor. I couldn't help but to think about that I really need to document it manually. I really need to document this manually so that I'll remember my expenses. Right now, I'm like relying on the EVgo app, relying on the Uber app, when I should be cognizant in accounting for, what I'm making weekly and what I'm getting, off of tips. And yeah. Another thing that I have to be cognizant about is to also realize that I have to pay taxes on all money earned. And it's hard to think that way when you're utilizing all of the money that you're making and you're not getting a profit. Like what this woman had said was she had budgeted her expenses to be about, $2,000 a month or less. But last month it was actually more than 2,000. And then she said something that was kind of surprised. It had surprised me. She was like, "Well, she really didn't have, she didn't have cooking facilities." And then she said she was on her way to Albania, right? And I know Albania is supposed to have, well, it has been said on the internet to be less expensive. That it's less expensive to live in Albania when it comes to being in Europe, right? So maybe that's what she's hoping for, On her way to Albania, though, she's going to, she's in France now. Then she's going to go to the UK. She wanted to go to Spain. And she had stated that the train ride from France to Spain was like €100. And so she was like not even thinking about even, trying to exchange the money because the exchange rate fluctuates a lot. But just like what she put me in that mind frame of was was to she put me in the mind frame that that I also needed to be aware of that the money that I'm making, even though it's not enough, I really, really need to account for the money that I'm making because of the taxes that will need to be paid on my taxes. Now, here's something that I'm not doing. I am in the States, right? She's in foreign countries making YouTube videos. Now, as a digital nomad, creating content and making money abroad is the invitation from these other countries to give digital nomads a visa to make money because they want to get taxes. Let me repeat that. Are these countries providing visas to digital nomads to allow them to create content in their country and make money being taxed? If it is, this is not something that digital nomads are talking about. If it is, how many digital nomads are getting into tax problems? Because like I said, if you're a businessman, right, and you go to another country, right, you're going to have to pay taxes in that country and in your home country, where you're a citizen of. Anywhere where you're a citizen, you have to pay taxes. This is one of the things that I kept hearing, that, okay, one of the things that they do when they allow people to come in, I guess on a senior visa, is that they will tell these seniors, look, you can get a senior visa, but you cannot work. All you have to do is show that you have, financial solvency to come to their country. That means you're going to their country, and all you're going to do in their country is spend money. It could be spending money to live, for sure. Right? So then, I'm watching this other video. I'm watching another video. And this is a video about this guy who was born in America. He marries a woman who lives in Canada. So he's got family now in both countries, right? So he was explaining how the tariff is affecting him. It started affecting him as of the first of the year. However, people weren't really strong-arming people who would buy things in America and then take it up there to Canada. Right? So one of the things that he was stating, him and his beautiful family, was that the things that he had got from America, the things that he had bought in America, because he's an American, some of the things that he had bought in America was actually manufactured in China. Right? And because they were mainly manufactured in China, they didn't have to pay a tariff, which I thought was interesting. Now, if we remember when they first started doing the tariffs, it was 25% for Canada, 25% for Mexico, And I think China had to deal with 10%. Well, I guess they're not getting the revenue that they want, so now they want to tax China even further. Also, because China decided, okay, they were going to start taxing America too. So America was like, oh, you want to tax America for putting tariffs when we buy all of these goods from you? And we're only saying that, look, you taking our jobs away, you're bringing us inferior quality material. There was, we want to tax you. We want to tax you with a tariff of 10%, right? And honestly, I prefer Temu over Shein, hands down. I bought some clothes from Shein, and I was totally disappointed with over half of the stuff that I got from Shein. It wasn't good. I just received the order that I bought from Temu, and everything that I got from Temu, even though it's inexpensive, it's of a better quality. Hands down. Hands down. So, and I bought this, I guess, at the 10%, Chinese tax. I don't know how much the same stuff that I bought at the 10% is going to cost when they start doing the 20. I think it was like, how much did they say they was going to go up? Anyway, I get really frustrated, listening to, the politics that's going on, that I'm not even aware just how much, the Chinese tariff was going to be. But I'm thinking it's going to be probably the same amount or as much as, we're taxing Canada and Mexico, which is 25%. So that's 15% more. So yeah, and I already told you, I do own a home, and owning a home, I have to pay property taxes, and I have to pay, county school taxes too. Not just for my city, but for the county. So, I've been trying to wonder, is there some way, that I could, the only way that I can even get credit for paying property taxes, city taxes, and county school taxes is if I itemize, right, and that whatever it is that I'm itemizing is more than, you know, I would get than if I would have just taken the exemption, right? The exemption I think was like 13,000. I think here's my daughter. Hold on. Okay, so that's done. Ooh, she brought it back dirty. Dirty. Okay. So yeah, needless to say, I'm a little panicky about the tax situation. But, so back to the house. Put this baby on charge. Like I said, when it's cool outside, it's 74 degrees, right? When it's a normal temperature, my thinking is it doesn't burn up as much, but it doesn't burn up as much in my battery as it does when it's hot. It can burn up my battery even if I don't have the air conditioner on, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, if it gets hot, you know, and you have the air conditioner on. No, I'm not talking about having the air conditioner on. Right? So then it brings to my mind, you know, what used to happen with my phone, right? You remember when, you know, our phones would get heated up, right? The phones would get heated up and we would have to recharge it often when the phones would get hot. So I'm thinking it has something to do with that. I think Bonnie gave me like a 3-year guarantee on this battery. And like I said, I can't even possibly even understand how in the world upgrading the battery would cost $5,000 to $12,000. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane. Okay? That's a brand new car. Well, not brand new car, because brand new cars, they're costing about $30,000 to $40,000. Okay, the on-ramp is not open. somebody did some serious damage on that on-ramp. They had to close it down and fix it. So I'm not trying to go to 75 at all. So I'm thinking I might have to stay on this feeder road and not get on this on-ramp, because it looks like this on-ramp is specifically for getting on the 75 freeway, which means it would be way too difficult to try to get on here and then make your way over. Because, you know, these people that go to 75, right? The people that go 75, oh my God. You know, I guess they in a rush to get home out there in the suburbs. I mean, in the urban areas, or, I mean, the suburbia. They're out there trying to go out there to suburbia. And, you know, they a lot of them, they just not nice. They not nice. They won't let you on. The speed limit here is 40 miles an hour. Right here. You see 40 miles an hour? I'm going 40. This guy was on my tail like we already on the freeway. But that's the rude, law-breaking mentality of the average American that feels entitled to break the law whenever they want to. They break the law whenever they want to. Then, when they get caught breaking the law, they don't believe that they should, you know, have to pay the penalties for breaking the law. You know, they want grace and mercy. They want you to be kind-hearted and give them a break every time they break the law. And when they break the law, then they think, and they get away with it, then they think they're a genius. Like, yeah, I break the law all the time and I get away with it. Because they got it like that. Like, you got it like what? How do you got it? You were given a break. Which goes back to this other video that I was talking about, right? I was watching this guy, you know, talk about how, you know, his case got dismissed, right? And I'm thinking to myself, your case got dismissed? Well, he's taking the fact that his case got dismissed as a victory rather than a blessing of grace and mercy. Okay? This case had been in the court system for 4 years. Meaning, if they had a case on him for 4 years, right? I'm almost suspecting that this is a criminal case, right? Because if it was a civil case for 4 years, nah, they wasn't gonna let it go. They wouldn't let it go. But a criminal case dragging on for 4 years, yeah, I can see the court system saying, look, you kept your nose clean for 4 years, they drop it kind of like, add time served. You know how when you go and you see people who will go to jail and spend time in jail, and they don't have an attorney. It might be a minor offense, and they'll just get a dismissal of time served, boom, right? Learn your lesson, don't do it no more, basically. And my feeling was this dude was trying to make it seem like, the dismissal meant he was innocent. And I'm like, nah, they wouldn't have held on for 4 years. If there was, lack of evidence. Right? And one of the final things that he had said, I guess, is he told his attorney, right, which obviously was probably a public defender, and maybe not the first public defender, he received, that he didn't have the funds to make it to court. Okay? But one of the things that this dude said was, when he first got this particular attorney, this attorney was telling him, hey, asked him, do you want to go for a speedy trial? And this guy was like, oh, no, I don't want to go for no speedy trial. No way. Which obviously makes sense. If you don't go for a speedy trial, only way you want to go for a speedy trial is if you're in jail and you don't want to be there. Right? But even in jail and you going for a speedy trial, that could be an indicator that, you don't like it there in jail. Right? And they could get more money out of you if you get out and do your fines, and, you have to have a speedy trial. Because why? Why do you have a speedy trial? Because you got to get back to work. Right? Why don't you have a speedy trial? Probably because you don't have to go to work. So anyway, that's a little bit about how our court system works. They've been doing this a lot longer than most of us been in trouble. Okay. So they know, common denominators of behavior. Right? You want a speedy trial so you can get back to work. You don't want a speedy trial because you don't have a job and you don't have to go to work. And so you might get your case dismissed because they're like, look, This person's not even working. You know, yeah. What are you gonna get out of this person besides putting them on probation? For X number of years. They got all this construction going on. I don't know, how far they've gotten on the next exit. This one here, they're getting ready to close it up because they have to work on this one. Turn on red? I think I can turn on red. Okay. Now. So this whole thing, this whole video that I talked about is my concerns about, finances. Period. Okay? Because one of the things that I would like to do as soon as I receive, my pension, which is going to be at least a year from now, because my 64th birthday will be next month. Right? This society did not allow me to continue working through the age of 65. Bummer. Right? So now I'm scrimping and scrambling, trying to make ends meet after losing, and being laid off, from a job where I was shooting for, a lump sum, pension payout. And I missed it. I didn't get it. So, just shy of a year of being eligible for the lump sum. Well, just shy of a year and a half. Let's just say a year and a half. I was on their radar, and some, I don't know, assassin, right? Some career assassin decided, oh yeah, they get a list of all the employees who are going to be eligible for lump sum payments, right? They also probably have a list of all the employees that are already eligible for lump sum payouts. So the ones that are already eligible for lump sum payouts, I guess, they're trying to fire them. Because I don't know if you lose your benefits, if you get fired. It seems like that's something that was going on because they tried to sabotage this one lady who had 25 years with the company, and all she needed was 25 years, and her age, all she had to do was be like 50 years old and have had 25 years of employment, and she would have made that 75-year mark, and she did. And of course, I think it's despicable for them not to honor the contract, right? That they had enticed this young person, right? You got 25 years, you're 50 years old, you've been working for the company since you was 25 years old. A baby, pretty much a baby. And now here you are at 50 years old, they don't want to honor their contract. And it's despicable how society will say, yeah, that's what they do, right? As if breaching contracts is okay. It's not okay to breach contracts. It's not okay to breach contracts. A company that breaches contracts is not a trustworthy company. And if they're a big corporation that gets tax breaks, that gets federal money, this is a problem. A big ass problem to have a corporation that gets tax breaks and federal money that's corrupt. It's a big problem. What does that do to the whole government? What does that do to the standing of the whole government? I want to buy me a frappe. That's what I want. I was going to get one over there because I was right by McDonald's. But instead, I'm going to get one in my neighborhood and take it to the house.